Welcome back to Around the Table with Stacy Smith as we take a look at the political scene. We just talked about what was happening in the U.S. House, just trying to elect a speaker, and what the GOP may be looking at as they run that GOP, run the House now. But let's talk about some other problems in Washington in a minute. Now let's move to Harrisburg. It might not be intra-party fighting, but good old-fashioned fighting between Republicans and Democrats. Governor, you are a veteran of Harrisburg. The House is nearly evenly split. There was a compromise choice for speaker, and he had to cancel the legislative session this week because he couldn't get in enough support for his legislative priorities. And then you couple that with allegations that he went back on his word after he was elected speaker. So, Governor, I am sure you are very, very happy that you're not sitting in the governor's office, but maybe not. Maybe you'd rather be there right now.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm done with politics. We're not going back. But you shouldn't be surprised by this. With the closeness of that election, and the Democrats, I think, have a 2-vote majority, but they have some vacancies. So the Republicans are only in control until after we have the elections. The 7th of February, I think, is the date for the 3 elections. And then the Democrats will have it. And it'll be interesting to see if they continue with Representative Rossi being the speaker, or if they go, okay, we're done with that experiment and we're going to elect our own person. It's very difficult for an individual to say that they can do this job as an independent and not caucus with anybody. But the only one I know who did that fairly well was Denny O'Brien back in, when was that, the early 2000s?
2012, 2013.
Yeah, during Governor Rendell's election. And I remember the date that it happened. They were swearing in senators. I was on the floor in the Senate, and everybody's cell phone went off and said, Denny O'Brien, a Republican, is the speaker, and the Democrats are in control of the House. Everybody was shocked by that. So it just goes to show you, politics makes strange bedfellows. It depends upon the time.
Yeah, there are 2 models for speaker, and we've at various times in our history had both of them in the state legislative arena and the federal arena. The speaker was originally to be the speaker of the whole House. Was originally to be that statesman, that person who stood in the middle and tried to convene the parties and have cooler heads prevail, and all for the good of the whole. But there's another model for speaker, and that is a partisan speaker, and that's what we've seen lately more than anything else. It remains to be seen if this experiment going to a speaker of the whole House is going to last with the current selection. But we do have those 2 models. I'm not sure the other one can ever come back, at least not during the times that we're in now.
Democrats won the majority because of some unique scenarios, some anomalies. One of the 3 Democrats becoming lieutenant governor, one of the 3 Democrats now in Congress, one of the 3 Democrats, an institution, Mr. DeLuca, passing away. It created this situation that created this current issue that we're talking about. But in about 3 weeks, it's going to be a moot point. Those 3 seats should be won by Democrats on February 7th. And then the ship will right, and the will of the Pennsylvania voter will be served, and the Democrats will be in the majority. So the things we're seeing now are a consequence of those issues still having to be resolved at the voting booth in 3 weeks.
It's also reflective of the, again, era that we're in now. It's combative nature of everything. Joe, I think going back to your position of we've had other speakers, so I think the last one that was a speaker for the entire House was Matt Ryan.
Indeed, yeah.
And Matt had been there for a number of years.
Out in great esteem by both parties.
Yes. That's exactly right. And I think with the combative nature that we have right now, until we can get past that, and I don't know that we will, you're not going to see us get back to that era.
I have to ask this question. In the U.S. Congress and the Senate, moderates are few and far between. How does it stand in the Pennsylvania House right now? Are there many moderates? Can legislation be worked out, you think, or are we just going to have the party fighting?
I believe that probably the majority of both parties is comprised of moderates. They're just not allowed to be moderates by their party leadership. That's the problem. Left to their own devices, without pressure from their leaders, you'd probably see a lot of compromises. You'd see a lot more progress legislatively.
That takes me back to a comment we had the last time or the time before that. As long as we continue to have a closed primary, candidates on both sides, Democrat and Republican, have to run to the extreme, to the right or to the left, and then try and come back into the middle. That's very hard to do. It can be done, but both parties have lost membership. Independents have increased. Other parties have increased in that period of time. And if we are able to open up the primaries and allow independents to vote either in the Democrat or the Republican, can't vote in both, but either one, I think you would see that needle come back closer to the middle.
All right, so I have to pose this question. If indeed the party, as Joe's indicated, the party leadership kind of controls how people are viewed, whether they're viewed as a moderate or how they vote necessarily, the party leadership wouldn't necessarily be in favor of an open primary, would it? On either side?
Well, I'm not sure. If you look at what's happened in Congress, the Republicans have control, but they're in a position where they can't get anything done because of the extremists in their ranks. They may be ready to try something that would make it harder for candidates to be that extreme and get back towards the middle to win in a general election. So they may welcome it. I'm surprised that I think it's a good idea. Tom Corbett's the one who first brought it up to me, and as we sometimes find ourselves on issues like that, we were separated by a great divide, but I think he's proved to be correct.
The conversations are taking place as far as moving in that type of a direction. I don't see much wind in that sail. I use that phrase a lot, but I've heard more of it in the last couple of years than I've ever heard at all. So I think the more we see this divisiveness in these Jerry Springer shows taking place in open combat and inter-party fights, it's going to add more momentum to that conversation.
All right, go ahead.
It benefits the vast majority of the members, both in the House and the Senate, Democrat and Republican, I believe. Now, it depends on how you set up the open primary. There are some primaries in other states where they take the two top vote getters, and they could both be from the same party. I don't agree with that. But allowing independents to come in and vote in the Democrat or in the Republican has actually gotten some traction in the House and in the Senate. There were bills in the last General Assembly that they could have passed. We're one of the few states that has a completely closed primary. I think we might be one of 12 or 13 states that do it. Other states do it completely differently. Sometimes we have to get out of our way of tradition and accept that we're in the 21st century.
All right, we also have to accept the fact that we have to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.